What's up, boys and girls? We are live on this Monday. We got a big 9-game slate today with Coors on it. They did manage to keep the Great American Small Park off of it. We're coming off. We had a nice week betting. We're up 15 units. We're up almost 30 on the season with MoonShots, and more importantly, we did solid in DFS. I stand by my Dodgers plays versus Shota. I knew it was going to go one way or the other. I literally said, I'm either going to win or I'm going to be dead last. And I was pretty much dead last. But anytime I can stack, a fly ball pitcher in Wrigley with the Dodgers that gets no ownership, I'm just going to take the risk on that for my single entry because, right, when it goes the right way, you're just so far ahead.
Yeah, I was way overweight on them and MME as well. It didn't work out, but, you live to fight another day.
Yeah, those are the plays I'm trying to look for. So, interesting slate today. From a game breakdown standpoint, there's really little no weather. It's a little cold in Minnie. It's a little cold in Colorado, and it's actually, as crazy as this sounds, it's a little chilly in San Diego. It's only going to be around 60, which is a little chilly there, but I think the humidity will help. I think they're going to have a little wind blowing in, but nothing crazy there. Odds standing out. Atlanta's 10 juice to the over. Colorado's only 10.5. And then the two low totals, San Diego, San Francisco, only 7.5. That's interesting to me today. And then the big favorites have a lot of money. Cleveland's minus 245, 96% of the money. Atlanta's 210 with 94. San Francisco's 215 with 99 with Snell going. So that's an interesting spot for me today. Are there any particular games you want to talk about first? Like any ones you want to attack?
Of course, Coors. You got two bad bullpens. I'm not saying I want to attack Gallen. I think he's fine to play in Coors, but the fact that their bullpen's so bad, I think Colorado's in play. And then same for the Diamondbacks going against Kyle Freeland, and then you get the Rockies bullpen after that.
So how do you manage that from an MME standpoint? How do you manage that? Right, we know they're going to be the most owned. It's Colorado, it's Freeland. There's no way they're not. How do you manage that from an MME GPP standpoint?
For me, normally I play Coors, but I'll come in underweight. Today, I don't know if I'm going to be underweight. I'm probably going to try and be with the field on the Diamondbacks, and I'll probably get over the field on the Rockies. But really, I think just managing your lineups, you want to go through them. Make sure you're getting low-owned secondary stacks with them or low-owned pitchers. Just making sure you have leverage in your lineup.
Yeah, so, from a 3-max standpoint, right, do you stack the Diamondbacks? You can, but like you just said, if I do, the other half of that lineup is going to be very low owned, right? To try to get some leverage for me. If I do play them when I go, I never, the first game of a Coors series, I will never play as a single entry lineup for me. It's just a thing. If you're in our Discord, we joke about it. We don't play the first game of Coors on single entries that way. It's just not what I'm a fan to do. I'm excited today because Snell's on the bump. I've been digging all day trying to get some pitch count, where they're going to be. He gets the Nats. If they let him go, which I don't know if the Giants will. I really like him at his current ownership, but what do you think about Snell today?
I like Snell. Like you just said, he's got one of the best matchups. They added Joey Gallo to that lineup. They're strikeout heavy. And another big thing with Snell is what he struggles with is his walks. But if you look at the Nationals lineup, they have the lowest walk rate on the slate. So I think that's pretty interesting. They like to swing. So I like Snell today.
Yeah, so one of the things interesting, some guys did some breakdown on Snell on his walks. And really, the data showed he's just willing to walk bats that can hit him. And he just doesn't care. He just won't. He's so good at control. He won't miss in the zone, but it's terrible for fantasy, but it's great for real life. So, but as a Giants fan, I'm excited to see him go out. And if he's sub 20%, I get he's 10-3. So I talk about this today. No one's going to pay up for 2 pitchers today. So that's a really interesting way to get some leverage, is to use Snell and then run him back with a $10,000 Morton, right? Nobody's going to run that today, and then try to get some less expensive bats. So that's an interesting spot for me. Saying even a 9,400 Castillo with Snell, right? Like, I just don't think anybody's going to double stack the high price pitchers. And I think that's a way to get really unique today.
Yeah, I like that as well.
I like it because I think there's some leverage on the bats. So let's talk about that on the other side. So this is, for me, Yu Darvish is coming in as massively owned today. And the Cubs don't project well right now. But I promise, if Darvish is above 30%, I'm using the Cubs. We saw how they just hit against the Dodgers. I get it. They don't project well, but that's, for me, how we leverage the slate, right? We take a low-owned, decently priced, they're not cheap, but decently priced Cubs lineup. Man, and that's, you're just so far ahead if they get at him.
Yeah, I like that. The Cubs really aren't even big underdogs in this game. You got a okay total, but I think the biggest thing too is if they get to Darvish, the Padres have one of the worst bullpens on the slate. So
yeah,
keep hammering them.
Yeah, their pen is really bad. So I like attacking them, but that top of that lineup, and then Bush is still really cheap. He's just still really cheap for the Cubs. So I like that spot. What do you think of Eflin today? I see a lot of talk. I feel like he's going to end up pretty high owned today. He gets the Angels, so I get it. What do you think about Zach today?
I'm fine with Eflin. He's probably one of my favorite pitchers on the slate. I know he's probably going to be high owned, but if you don't play him with Arizona, then that's probably all right.
So, and then the other side of it, right? In that game, do you have any desire to come back with their bats, right? Do you like the Rays side versus Tyler Anderson?
Yeah, I always like targeting Tyler Anderson. The Rays, their offense hasn't really been the same this year, but I think they'll get it together.
Yep. Yeah. So here's a good one for you. Someone asked in our Discord earlier, do you have the nuts to pitch Freeland versus the Diamondbacks?
No.
Me neither. I just listen. I'm nuts, but even that's my line. But speaking of, listen, a $7,400 Assad versus the Padres lineup today. I don't hate that either. I like his price from a leverage standpoint. I think that's just a good spot to get some from there. We get the Rangers Astros back tonight. We crushed this with Texas stacks. If the Rangers wouldn't have got pulled, we probably both would have took down multiple slates, but they didn't get those last at bats that we were counting on. What do you think of Framber and Heaney throwing today?
Yeah, that was tough. I have a little bit of interest in Framber, but I really don't like playing pitchers against the Rangers, mainly just for leverage purposes if I throw Framber. But I do have some interest in the Astros going against Heaney. Heaney struggles with control. He gives up a ton of power to righties, and the Astros only have 2 lefties, so could be a long game.
Yeah, I like that Diaz McCormick. I like that Diaz McCormick side. I like Wyatt Langford as a one-off today. I think the kid just smokes lefties, and I get Framber's really good, but I think this is a good spot for maybe a very low-owned Langford to be a bring back there. The team I can't figure. So walk me. I'm gonna ask you to walk me through this. Let me go back over this. I'm gonna do a refresh here because I am confused. Other than it's just price. So let's go to pitching. and we're gonna go look at ownership. And I need you to walk me through this because I feel like I'm seeing things. Okay. So let's go back. Let's get this cycled. Yu Darvish, by the way, is up to 30% ownership. We're going to share the screen now. This is wild. Like, there's no way I don't have a Cub stack. There's no. I mean, I don't see how they don't make my SE at this rate. Like, that's wild. All right, so let's talk about this here. Okay, 40%. Let's go to pitching. 40% Darvish. Okay, we got a 40% Darvish. Can you walk me through a 15% Mikolas versus the Phillies? Am I missing something? Like, I get it's because he's 5,300, so people are stacking him with like you and Barrios and Framber and those guys because he's only 50. Guys, like, are we really gonna pitch? Like, are we gonna do this today? I'm not. Like, I'm gonna go the other way. Like, sign me up on the Phillies side, right? Like, when we start looking at this, and we're looking at ownership averages on there, and the Phillies are landing in the just at like the bottom half of ownership stack against a 15 to 20% Mikolas, man, smack my ass and call me happy.
Yeah, everyone that plays Mikolas is going to have the same lineup construction, especially in single entry three max.
Yeah, so
they're Mikolas with an expensive pitcher and a Diamondback stack or Brave stack.
Yeah, that's what I say. That's where they're going to go, right? They're all going to go Diamondbacks and Braves because Mikolas get you there, right? I really like Baum today versus Mikolas, right? Like, I like that top half. Marsh is cheap at 3,600. He kind of gets you in there, but I might not have him a full side, but I definitely like leveraging off some of that Philly side today. I mean, that's give me Schwarber. You can take expensive guys, add one cheap guy in there, and go from there. You like it? The Dodgers versus Ober today?
Kinda. I like. I think they're a good pivot to the Braves or Diamondbacks. They're just so expensive. Otherwise, I'd be going there.
Yeah, I mean, it's 6,500 bets now. 6,300 Shohei, 6,100 Freddie, 4,900 Smith, and Hernandez is now 5K. Right? They've just basically said you're not. If you're playing them, you got to pitch Mikolas, right? Which I don't want to do, right? Like, that's why I said I think an interesting spot could be pay up at pitcher, right? And you can get some leverage there. And then we start talking about, some Phillies, some Cubs, give me some of those stacks in there. I think that could be an interesting spot. Again, give me Morton versus this lineup. I get he's 10K, but man, the Mets just haven't hit yet. They just haven't done it. So, and then my issue, right, with the Braves is always, right. Now I love Olsen today. I'm okay with leveraging Olsen as a one-off. Now you can pay for him, but give me Olsen there. And then Jared's still only $3,800, man. The kid's ripping the ball to start. He had a terrible spring training. The power hasn't like jumped yet, but man, to get part of that lineup for $3,800, I kind of like that. What about yourself?
Yeah, I'm interested there too. Really looking at like their bottom five, starting with Ozuna down to Kalinick. If you just stack the bottom five, you're getting exposure to one of the best offenses in baseball, and you're going to be different.
Yeah, so that's where, and I just think you can get unique there and put out some interesting stuff as far as that goes. And then from give me one of your like cheaper owned guys that you like today.
Let's see. Let me dig through. I like. I don't. Let me see. I like Jose Caballero.
Yeah. My only worry there is his ownership. I think he's going to be super owned because of his price. I like a $3,300 Lamont Wade tonight from the Giants. Right, guys. Solaire's only $4,300. He's cheap. I like a couple of the cheap twins against Paxton. My issue is, like I said with Jeffers or even Farmer, is they're going to pitch hit him, right? And if I only get 2 at bats, like I get stuck. I really don't like that spot when that happens. Like that's always a frustrating situation for me. So I like that there. And then one other spot I would say is, I talked about it earlier, is Bush with Chicago. Again, it gets you exposure against the most owned pitcher. And I get it. People are going you with Mikolas. Like, so here's what ownership tells me, guys. We got asked this in our Discord a little bit earlier. So it was asking me about, SE 3 max play. So this is where I like leverage, right? Give me pay up a pitcher, and then let me pivot now off of that and go with a cheap, like I can play up a pitcher and go cheap Giants, cheap Cubs, right? Like, and get some what I think is nice leverage on the slate. And when all these guys play Mikolas with Atlanta, LA, Colorado, it's Arizona, right? I think that's there. But my issue with Minnesota is they've just shown us. We know who they are. They're going to pitch hit them all the time.
Yep.
And then what do you think, like, lineup wise? Haven't really talked about the Mariners and Blue Jays. I like Castillo today. They just haven't hit yet. They just haven't hit yet. Like, Toronto's been kind of slow so far. What do you think of that Toronto Seattle game today? I do like J-Rod. I think J-Rod could have a nice day.
Yeah, that's I like both pitchers in that game. Castillo had a few rough outings, but everything looked fine. He got Babbitt to death. I don't really have any interest in Blue Jays. Maybe some of the lefties as one-offs, like Biggio or Kiermaier for value. And like you mentioned, I really like Julio today. But other than that, I don't really have any full stacks of the Mariners.
Yeah, and my issue with is Julio's 5,600. So like unless I see Barrios, so that's an example though. Barrios for me goes way up ownership wise, and I'm surprised more people aren't talking about Turnbull. I get where he's been, but it's the Cards. They haven't been great to start. At $6,900, if I'm dumpster diving today for a pitcher, he's the guy I'm going with. If I'm going, let's do an owner, yeah, right. And he's not really owned. He's 5% right now. So if I'm dumpster diving, because I'm not going Williams, anybody else in there. But if I was going to dumpster dive, Turnbull for me is probably the spot I go. And take a chance and see if you can open up some bats with that. All right, well, let's talk about it.
Yeah, I like that.
Who you got for your moonshot today?
Today I'm going with Jorge Soler. He's going to hit one deep.
He is. I love Jorge today. I like it. The wind's blowing out there a little bit. And then I'm going with the man that's might be on the Barry Bonds system, allegedly, Randy Arozarena. He's plus 400 today. Gets a good matchup. I don't always love, when guys come off of Coors, but again, I just like targeting Tyler Anderson. If Anderson's Anderson's not good. So, if he hangs one, Randy's going to hit it probably 500 feet. So cool. Well, hey, if you guys got any questions, hit us up in Discord. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to y'all soon.